Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Learn This with Mahesh. In today's video, the concept which I want to discuss is what is ingress in GKE? It could be a simple question, or I can rephrase it as what's my understanding of network load balancer layer 4 versus HTTPS global load balancer, which is going to be the implementation of GKE ingress in Google Kubernetes. So let's see what is the, I guess you can take whatever the way you want the question to be. I would say the second portion is what I feel like. This is my understanding. It could be totally different from what others have an understanding, but this is my understanding. So I like to share my understanding. Maybe it can give you some thoughts on that basically. So before we look into the details of it, a quick shout out. I'm starting my batch 8. If you're interested, basically, do drop me a mail. Happy to give more details on it. Now, this is a requirement which I wanted to show you using network load balancer and the HTTPS load balancer basically. So layers 4 and layer 7. So assume we have a 3 containerized applications developed by 3 different teams basically in the same organization, and all these 3 applications needs to be exposed to the outside world, meaning they need to have an external IP address. Now as per the company's policy, these applications needs to be deployed in GKE only, no cloud run kind of stuff. So let's assume only it is Kubernetes. Now the first option which I can do, now if this is a task given to me, maybe as an architect to design it or as a DevOps person to basically deploy it, I have 2 options. Very simple, I don't want to do much work. Then I could have given an option like this. Because it's already containerized, I'm going to create a deployment object with the container image there, and I'm going to create a service object, and the service object is going to be of the type load balancer, which is going to behind the scene create network load balancer in GCP. So layer 4, and this basically everybody knows the network load balancer is basically a regional resource, and this is going to create 3 regional external IP addresses. Now what's the biggest drawback of option number 1 is, tomorrow a 4th application comes and they want a similar stuff. I'm going to create one more load balancer. Now this external IPs is going to keep on increasing. This is the biggest drawback, and the load balancer which we are going to use is a regional load balancer. Okay, that's a drawback. Now what's the second option which I can say? Same thing, create a deployment object, service, create a service object, but in this case it's not a load balancer service type. The type is not load balancer, but it is cluster IP. The basic one, which is going to use an internal IP address. Additionally, I'm going to create an ingress object. Now if I create this ingress object, it's going to behind the scene implemented in GCP using HTTPS load balancer, which is going to be our layer 7 load balancer, the most smartest load balancer which you can get, and this is going to be global basically, and the IP address is going to be a global external IP address, the anycast IP. Now what's the biggest advantage of this? One single IP address. Tomorrow a 4th application comes, I just add my new URL map, or when I show you the configuration, I'll show you how do you add it. So basically it's a small snippet of code which you need to add, job done. So instead of just stopping it here, let me show you a live demo how these 2 options work, and I also going to share you the gist page which I have, so you can try it also. The images which I'm going to use are public images, so you can exactly copy that YAML file and you should be able to try it out. So let's look into the demonstration. All right, we are in our GCP project. So this is the Kubernetes cluster which I have created, layers 4 load balancer versus Ingress layer 7 load balancer. It's a 3-node Kubernetes cluster. It's a public Kubernetes cluster. So meaning if I go to my external IP address, there are 3 IP addresses. Now this is basically used by the nodes. Okay, so now I've already connected, have got the credentials, so I should be able to basically run kubectl command, get nodes. I should be able to see the 3 nodes there. So awesome, I'm able to connect it. That's one part. Now I have a gist page. I'll put it in the description. If you are interested, you can look into it. Basically what it does is, I have a first application. It is using basically the hello app from the public GCR which is there, and this application listens on port 8080. I'm going to create a service object, and this is the one, load balancer, and I wanted to basically expose it on port 80. Similarly, I have my zone printer, the famous demo which we did basically using that object. So that is the same thing. And similarly for that, I have a load balancer created. Lastly, I have one more thing where I am, which is a recently created app, if I'm container image, if I'm not wrong. So which basically shows what is the zone, blah, 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 those details. So for that also, I have the load balancer object. Now click on raw. So I'm going to copy this URL. I'm not going to even copy this code and run it. I'm lazy enough. So what I will do is I'll do something like this, folks. So kubectl apply -f. That's it. The most easiest way of doing it. So hit enter. Done. Now let me put watch kubectl get deployment comma service comma pod comma ingress. So if I do this, it should show me all the objects. Sorry, ingress is not there, my bad, we have not done ingress. So if I just do this part, so watch command is going to basically refresh every 2 seconds, or depending on what is the how long it takes, you should see it is refreshing every 3 seconds or 2 seconds. So we just need to wait for this piece. So 3 load balancers are going to be created, meaning once the entire stuff is there, you should see basically 3 external IP address, regional one. And also if you go to the load balancer section, you should basically see already 3 load balancers are created. Now if I basically go and refresh it, you should see 3. The one which starts with forwarding stuffs, these are the IP address books. Done. We have exposed it. So you see they have we have got the external IP address for them. So what I will do is very simple, remove the watch command, get this IP address. This is for my hello service. So if I just run this, it's going to show the simple hello world output. Awesome. The second application, zone printer. So because my Kubernetes cluster is created in Singapore, so I should expect a Singapore flag showing up. Awesome. The next one is where I am. So it's basically going to show something in a JSON format. That's it. So it shows what's the cluster name, blah, 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 all those details. Now 3 applications, 3 external IP address. Simple, job done. But the true value of a cloud architect is not shown here, because the job was made very simple, but it's not going to be very scalable. So every time I'm going to add an external IP address, and you know the cost of an external IP address, it's going to come close to basically around $3 if I'm not wrong, $3 or $2 to $3 basically. So why to have additional stuffs? So for this, to overcome this, the option which we are going to do is basically ingress. So for this, basically I need to clean up my cluster. So what I'm going to do is delete. So it's going to delete everything. Once it gets deleted, what we will do is I have a ingress, similarly a gist page which is for ingress, so we'll use that part. So it's going to anyway take some time, so I'll just explain what is this here. So don't worry, I'm going to put this link in the description. If you are interested, you can make a copy of it. So similar stuff, folks, there's no difference in the deployment. So but in my service, I'm going to use instead of load balancer, I'm going to use cluster IP, which is going to use the internal IP address. So and I can give whatever the port numbers I want basically. So my wish is what I have put. Similarly for zone printer, I have used cluster IP, and for where I am image also I have put cluster IP. Now that is all something similar, except the change which we did was cluster IP. Now this is the most important piece. The crux of the entire demo is this part, where I create a object. The kind of object which I'm going to create is called as ingress. You can give whatever the name you want. Now I'm creating the default backend is hello service. Now if nobody tries anything, just puts the IP address, the global IP address, anycast IP, it's going to show hello service. Now meaning you should see something like this. That's what you should see. Then I have put some custom rules, host and path rules, not custom, sorry. If I just put slash, again it's going to show hello service. Now if I put slash zone printer, it's going to show this one. Now if I put slash where I am, the IP address slash where I am, it is going to show basically this one. So this is one way of achieving it. You can also use a subdomain. Now I don't have a domain to show you that part, so otherwise I could have used something like team1 the domain name, team2 the domain name, something like that, where it is going to send the request to the different services. Now this is the key piece, folks. Now the important part is what is the port on which the services are listening. So for example, if you see here, the where I am service listens on 10,000 port. So I have to make sure that port is mentioned properly. Otherwise you will have lots of problem. It's going to become little difficult to debug it. Now the same procedure, I'm going to click on raw, copy this. I guess everything is deleted now. So what I'm going to do is apply -F, done. So watch also ingress. Now we should be able to see the cluster IP is created. Bang on, no time, it was super fast created. Now this is going to create basically the layer 7 load balancer. So it's going to take basically around 3 to 4 minutes, or 2 to 3 minutes is what I have seen basically. So you can, I'm going to pause the video, but before I'm going to pause the video, I just wanted to show you what has happened in the external IP section. So if I refresh it, the IPs which we saw should have been removed. The regional one for our load balancer should have been removed. It is removed. Load balancer, if I refresh the screen, it should not show anything. It's going to take some time. It's only 50 seconds is what has happened. So in next 2 to 3 minutes, we should see a HTTPS load balancer. Since I have not created the SSL certificate, it's going to be a HTTP load balancer. So let's wait for that load balancer to start spinning up, and we will see that IP address is going to be basically a global IP address. I'm just going to pause the video. So we'll be back once I see the IP address. Alright, the time is now around 2 minutes 49 seconds. So we see an IP address. Now if I go to my load balancer section, I should see one entry that is going to be HTTPS load balancer. That's what we see, and it's going to have basically, if I click on, I have 3 backends, one for hello service, one for zone printer, one for where I am. That's what you see. And if I go to my IP address section, if I refresh it, you should see a global IP. Now how do I find out it's a global IP? You see this piece. So this is the same thing ending with 239. So it does not have a region information. So if it does not have a region information, that IP address is a global IP, the Anycast IP. Now it's just a matter of me using this and checking everything is going to work the fine way. So first it should show, not showing, so it's going to take a little time. So let's wait for it. So let's give a minute for it to refresh it. It's not yet showing up. So usually Ingress is going to take little time to come up. So let's give some time. By the time it comes up, I can just show you where those details are created if you want to see the stuffs. So under your services and Ingress, you click on Ingress, you should be able to see it, and you see that still it is creating. It's not completely up, and you see all the stuffs which you wanted to basically use it. So I don't know why it is showing through 2 stars basic. Okay, one is the default one is basically the hello this thing, the hello service. That's the reason it is showing. So totally 3 or 4 front ends is what we see. So let's wait for this. Once it comes up, we should be able to see it, or I can also give a try if I'm little impatient. So let's just wait for it. So the IP is created. Basically the process is going behind the scenes. So let's just give a couple of more minutes and see whether it is going to show up. Maybe I can just give one last try. So slash zone hyphen printer should not, it's still not yet working. Let's give some time, folks. So let's give some time for it to show up. See what is the state. Okay, it's now in unknown state. Should basically work is my understanding. Okay, now instead of giving 400, it is showing 502 error. So if I refresh it now, awesome. So it is working. So the first, if I just hit like this, my hello world comes. Second, if I put zone printer, the second application comes. The third one is where I am. It shows up the stuffs. Awesome. So that's the concept which I wanted to show basically with respect to the ingress part. And as a good practice, if you don't want anything further to be used, either delete the cluster or delete the application which you have deployed using this command. So that's a video which I wanted to share. Please let me know your thoughts and your understanding of what is GKE ingress means. So in the comments section. Thank you for watching.